All right. Well, thanks so much, Sam and Karen and all of you for joining this session about memory kits. I'm Bonnie McEwen with the Northwest District office in Sioux City. And you've been with us now. If you have been throughout the day, you know that our webinar rooms don't have microphone access, but you certainly have access to the chat space where we hope you'll type your questions or comments from Karen. We'll be sure to pick them up there. Between Sam and I, we'll be sure to get the link to the conference evaluation to you as well. If this happens to be the last session you're attending, then fill out the evaluation after this program. But if you're able to stay with us throughout the day and even into the evening, then fill out the evaluation when the conference is over for you. So with that said, this session says yes to memory kits, and it's a great opportunity for libraries to serve a growing number of people with Alzheimer's, as well as their caregivers, along with other patrons who may have other types of dementia. Clarinda Library has put together memory kits and added those to its collection. So in this session, you'll hear about memory kits, how to put them together, where to find items to put inside them. And to tell us all about this is Karen Brandt with the Clarinda Public Library. Karen began her library work as a page at her high school in Newton, and then she later obtained her bachelor's degree from Truman State University. She and her family have lived in many East Coast states before moving back to the Midwest, and when she returned to Iowa, she returned as a library assistant at Ogden, and now she serves as the circulation librarian at Clarinda. So, Karen, we're glad to have you here, and we're glad to learn how we can say yes to memory kits.
Thank you, Bonnie. Yep, I am the circulation librarian at the Lead Public Library in Clarinda. I have been here for about 3 years, not quite 3 years. And so it's a relatively new position for me. And I am excited to tell you about how we put the memory kits together. It's a project that was near and dear to my heart. When I first started working at the Clarinda Library, my director just kind of wanted me to get acclimated and jump right in. And he said, I want you to think of a project and we'll talk about budgeting and it'll be just all yours. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I came up with this idea, and I'll tell you a little bit about why I came up with the idea. But first, let me tell you a little bit about our library. I guess I'll start with what all we're going to talk about. I'll tell you about our library. I'll tell you what a memory kit is. I'll tell you why we decided to make the memory kits and why you might want to put them in your library. I'll tell you what we put in ours and exactly where we found all the items to put in our kits. I'll talk a little bit about marketing and funding, related programming, the results that we had, what people said about them, and how popular they were. And I will have a resource slide at the end with all of the websites from the companies that I'll be talking about. So Clarinda is a small community with a population of about 5,300 people. And then we serve several rural communities around. Our 18.7% of that population is over the age of 65. And we have 3 elder care facilities in Clarinda. And we were looking for ways to better serve this growing population in our community and the elder care facilities. We already did like homebound delivery and delivery to the facilities, but a lot of people were not able even to read. And so we were just looking for things that we could do to better serve them. Our library is located in Page County, which is in the southwest corner. We're a size E. We just built a new building in 2004, and we have a staff of 2 full-time and 8 part-time. So that kind of gives you an idea of what size we are and what kind of staffing we're working with, just so that you can look at your size library to see how you might want to adapt this idea to your library. So first of all, what is a memory kit? A memory kit is a set of items that helps the caregiver create connections and conversations with a person that has Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. Usually it's a family member. Sometimes it's just a close friend or someone in their church. And these same items also stimulate memories and brain function, as well as calming the person with dementia. And I just want to stress that these kits are interactive. They're actually targeted more towards the caregiver and meant more for them to use with their loved one to create those conversations and connections and help the person to remain active as long as they possibly can. It's not really something that you would just give to the person with Alzheimer's and say, here, do this. It's really an interactive sort of thing. So why did we think about making these kits? Why do we want to make them? The first thing that came to mind were just the growing elder population in our community. And the Alzheimer's Association on their website has facts and figures reports geared towards each state and then also for the country. So just to give you an idea about the numbers in Iowa, in 2020, those over the age of 65 diagnosed with Alzheimer's, there was 66,000. They anticipate in 2025 that number will go up to 73,000. So that is like over a 10% increase in those with Alzheimer's within our state. Since these kits are also there to help caregivers, the number of caregivers in Iowa in 2020 was 73,000. There were, in total hours of unpaid care, that would be care by the spouse, the children, the relatives, they're caring for these family members and not getting paid for it. And the percent of caregivers that are reporting depression is 28.7%. It's a very stressful job to have and to do, and it really wears the person down. And so these kits help them to do what they're doing and give them some encouragement as well. Just to give you an idea, just kind of our country as a whole, 83% of help provided to older adults comes from family members, friends, or other unpaid caregivers. And nearly half of those are giving care to someone with Alzheimer's. 1 in 3 caregivers is themselves over the age of 65, and about a quarter of those caregivers are sandwich generation caregivers, meaning they're taking care of an older parent or an older adult, as well as children under the age of 18. And as compared with caregivers of those without dementia, twice as many caregivers of those caring for those with dementia indicate a substantial emotional, financial, and physical difficulty or stress. So we just wanted to reach out to them and give them a source of support. But probably the biggest reason and the thing that brought this whole idea to mind was that it's a personal story for me. This is my mom, and she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and passed away in 2017. And I personally really struggled as she was losing her memory to just have conversations with her and connect with her. It's a really hard thing to go through when you can't talk to them anymore. So, and my dad's and my experience in the facility that she was in, it was a wonderful facility, but the activities director really didn't give us much help in regards to, activities to do with her or things that we could do to draw her out. And in that process, I just stumbled upon a puzzle on Amazon that was created specifically for people with Alzheimer's. I bought the puzzle, gave it to her for Christmas. And she used that puzzle for quite a while, for several months, as the disease progressed, and it was something that we could do together. It was very helpful. So when my director approached me to do this project, and I came up with this idea because I just really wanted to help other family members in their situations. So there are a couple of different options. If this is something that you think you want to do, you can get pre-made kits. One of the most prevalent companies that does this is Maternally, and you can see their website there on the slide. They have pre-made kits made for libraries, but the kit only has a DVD and then photo activity cards that go with the DVD. And they cost $60 to $75 depending upon how they're packaged. You can get them in a bag or a sturdy plastic case. And we decided not to take this route because I was looking for something more active and with more a range of activities and things in the kit. So we decided to try and create our own. And at the time that I was looking into it, there weren't a lot of places that had them. And I stumbled upon the Ramsey County Library System in Minnesota. And I contacted Carol Jackson, who was the library manager of the Shoreview branch, and because they had created them for their library. She was extremely helpful. She had partnered with Dementia Services in where she lives to create their kits. And so they already knew all of the research and all of the, how to put these kits together and what needed to be in them. And she shared all of that with me, all of her information, all of her research. She even sent me the brochures that they had printed up, gave me all of the websites for the places that they ordered their items from. So a lot of what you're going to see today, I got from Carol. So I just kind of wanted to give credit to her for all the help that she gave to us. Just to give you an idea of how you can really gear this project toward the size of your library. The Ramsey County Library System is quite large. They have 7 branches, and they see about 1.6 million visitors in a year. And they have created over 100 unique kits for their library. So each memory kit is unique. There's not one that's alike. And then I told you the size of our library. We created 11 kits. You could even just do 1 or 2, or just buy a couple of the items to have in your library. So it's a very flexible project if you're interested in doing it in your library. So what did we put in our kits? The first thing, obviously, that we think of is books. And so every kit does have a book in it. When you're looking for books to put in your kit, there's an example here on the slide. You want to look for large print, simple text. You want there to be engaging photos that are not childish. They may not be able to communicate very well, remember things, but they are adults, and we want to make sure that we are respecting them as adults. You want there to be an interesting story or information, and preferably that they would have some conversation starters or activities with the book. This particular book on the slide is from Shadowbox Press, and they had a set of these books which we purchased. These books are specifically designed for those with Alzheimer's and other dementias, but you can find other books of this type. We have a couple of books from the Picture Book of series by Sunny Street Books. Particularly, we have the Picture Book of Gardens, and we found those on Amazon. However, that series of books doesn't have any words or any ideas of what to do with the book. They're just really beautiful photographs all around a certain theme. So you can look at the pictures. Also I know my mom loved to read, and it got to the point where she couldn't read. She couldn't follow the plot line. She couldn't remember the story. At a certain point, she struggled even to understand the meanings of the words. But she would love to hold books. She loved to look at books. So even if there's no words in the books that you choose, they are good for just looking at the pictures. And sometimes it will spark a memory or an idea, and it will get them to talk and give you something to talk about with the person. The books from Shadowbox Press were quite impressive because they had 4 conversation starters for each picture. And then in the back of the book, they also included sensory stimulation, creative expression, and physical movement activities. So it was kind of just the complete package. They're really, really nice, well-made books. Then the next thing that we also got from Shadowbox Press were the conversation cards. They had a set of 3, which we purchased, so not every kit has a set in them, but they're designed to encourage reminiscing and conversation. When I first brought this up to my director that I wanted to put this is something I wanted to put in the kit, he was not very certain that they would be very useful. So he wanted me to show you an example of one of the cards. So because once he saw them and heard people talk about how they used them, he was really impressed with them and thought, wow, this really was useful. So on one side of the card, there is a very colorful picture. This one's of a leaf. And on the other side of the card are questions for the caregiver to ask the person. And just things like, do you enjoy the fall colors? Or what do you like best about fall? Or, do you remember raking the leaves? Things like that. And then at the bottom, there's usually a really simple fact, just something that might trigger some other piece of knowledge the person has that they might want to share with you. You never know what is going to get the person, kind of out of their shell and talking. So those are the conversation cards that we put in. I love music. And so I wanted there to be music in the kits as well. And I was very surprised when I was doing the research and talking with Carol that there is a company called Alzheimer's Music Connect that has created specific music for people with Alzheimer's. It uses special audio technology paired with familiar melodies to promote relaxation for the people with dementia and provide caregivers with respite. We also purchased from a company called MindStart. They'll be coming up a lot in the presentation. They had 2 CD and book sets. So in the book, on one side of the page, there's a very beautiful picture. And on the other side of the page is in very large type are the words to either like the first verse or the chorus. So they would have the book to hold. And if a lot of times people will remember music a lot sooner than other things. And so you'll find that they'll sing along. My husband, who's a pastor, when he visits people, they may not know who he is or be able to go through the service with him. But when he starts singing Jesus Loves Me, they'll just start singing right along with him. It's kind of amazing to see. They just perk right up. And so music is a very good thing to have in the kits. We also purchased some DVDs from Amazon called Sing Along with Susie Q. And they're, songs that they would remember and have heard a lot and be very familiar with, that they can sing along with. So that's the music that we put in. And then that we wanted each kit to have some sort of activity, either a puzzle or a game. This is probably the trickiest part or the hardest part. I did a lot of research on this because before you can put activities into the kit, you kind of have to understand the levels of functioning that an Alzheimer's person might be at. And this chart is on mindstart.com. They're a company that provides products that are designed by an occupational therapist. They are based on research and testing with dementia patients. A lot of their products have been used in research at Johns Hopkins as well. And they just have a lot of information on their site along with the products to purchase. So we'll just kind of go through the slide and look at the different stages. The early stages, the person will have a very high activity level. They'll be able to dress themselves with only occasional errors, and they'll only need help with like the real details. They'll understand the goal of a task that you give them. They'll be able to understand what they're trying to accomplish, and they'll use what they see as cues about how to proceed or what to do in that task. And they'll only need a little bit of periodic cueing. In the middle stages, or middle activity level, they'll be able to dress themselves with help, only for the basic steps and the details. They may not understand the task goal, but they'll have some awareness of the steps they need to complete in order to do that task. And they will need step-by-step cueing from a caregiver. Do this first, now do this, then do that type of thing. Then in the late stages or low activity level, they'll need physical help with all the dressing steps. They won't understand the purpose of what they're doing, and they won't understand the steps to take in order to do what you're trying to ask them to do. And usually the caregiver will physically assist. So if they're tying their shoe, the caregiver will take their hands and put them on the person's hands and help them. Or if they're trying to write, they'll put their hand over the person's hand and help them write. They really can't do it on their own at that point. So what kind of activities can you do at each level for the kits? And MindStart I really liked their website because when you would look at the item, it would tell you what level, what activity level they would be at. And we decided to color code our kits. So we bought bags from Demco in 3 different colors. We have red, yellow, and blue. And red is the high activity level, yellow is middle, and blue is the lower level. That way, based on what the person's doing that you want to check out the kit for, you can kind of know which kit would be good for them. So at a high activity level, they can do simple games, books, activities, 63 to 24 piece puzzles, numbers and sweets game, which MindStart sells, finishing the lines books, easy word searches, and you can work with them on creating a memory book. In the middle stages, they can do matching, sorting, or one-step tasks. So 24 and 12 piece puzzles, rainbow bingo, finishing the lines, matching the shape, and they can still work with you on creating a memory book. And in the late stages, they need very repetitive experiences, and sensory experiences are really good. So scent games or just visual things or touching are good. Look and lace cards. And if you've created a memory book with them, they'll really enjoy looking at the memory book. And just a note on what a memory book is, my dad just kind of, I don't know, came up with this idea on his own. He didn't know that that's what it was called at the time, but he created a photo album for my mom. And he put pictures of himself and her brothers and sisters and her parents. Her children were in there, and just some other important people in her life. And so even in the very late stages, she would love to look at those pictures. And, she wouldn't really talk about them anymore, but she would flip through the book. And it was very calming to her. And so we created a page that we put in the kits with ideas and instructions on how to create a memory book. You don't have to just put pictures in them. When they're still remembering things very well, you can have them tell you stories, and you can write them down. You can ask them about, what jobs they did, what their childhood was like, all sorts of things, and create a book so that as they start to forget things, you can go through the book together and read about what they've done in the past. And sometimes it helps them to remember. Sometimes it's just soothing. But that's a very helpful thing to have in there. I just wanted to talk about puzzles just a little bit because I love puzzles. Our family did puzzles together all the time, which is why when I found the puzzle for my mom, it was a really exciting thing for us to find that. You can put puzzles into the different stages as well. So if you're going to buy puzzles, you kind of want to think of, the activity level of the person. In the early stages, they can do the 63-piece puzzle. It's more of just a traditional kind of looking puzzle that you can see there. We got this one from MindStart. And then in the middle stages, this is the kind of puzzle that I found for my mom. It's from a company called Keeping Busy. And they have a color-coded tray. So in the tray, you can see there's kind of a background of the picture. And then the pieces, they're outlined in a color. And then each bag has those colored pieces in it. And you just give them one bag at a time. So they just do the 4 pieces in that bag. And those pieces are outlined in the color blue, for example. And so they have multiple visual cues in order to do the puzzle. They have the shape of the piece, they have the picture, and they have the color. And you're giving them less pieces at a time so that they're not as overwhelmed by the task. It's called a guided puzzle. And then lower activity levels may or may not be able to do puzzles, but they would just need to have very few pieces and way more cues. So the one on the right in the low activity level, we got this puzzle from Active Minds. Active Minds has a storefront on Amazon. So if you go to Amazon and search Active Minds, their store will come up, and they are specifically designed for people with dementia. They're a little more traditional. They have the cardboard type pieces to them. They have 13-piece puzzles, which this one is, up to 63-piece puzzles, and it comes in a box. And so the tray is on the bottom, and you can see how there's the shape of the pieces there. And then on the back of the tray is the completed picture. And there, if you can kind of see underneath the picture, there's those little white, they look like white boxes probably on your screen, but there's words in them that relate to this picture. This puzzle is of a dog. And so there's words that are related to dogs that you can use to maybe create a memory or a conversation with the person. So we put puzzles in quite a few of the kits. Not every kit has a puzzle in them. And I spoke on the previous slide, the Finishing the Lines books came up, and I realized you guys probably wouldn't know what those are, but lines that are repeated in your life over and over and over again, they're just like common phrases that kind of stick in your brain and become instinctual. And so this book just has pages and pages of lines, like it's raining cats and then there'll be a blank. And most of us probably can come up with dogs. It's raining cats and dogs. Well, the person with dementia, surprisingly enough, will probably be able to pull that word out as well. So it's a really fun thing to do with the person that you're taking care of, is you just, you read a couple and see if they can come up with the word. It keeps their mind active and their brain active. And then maybe the phrase will spark something that they want to talk about. So those are fun too. We decided in our kits to not put word searches, or I think it's Active Minds has some paint with water books that you can get for them, but we didn't want to put consumables in the kits, things that we would have to replace. We wanted them to be more permanent. So we didn't use those, but that's really just your personal preference, what works for your library. So you can put simple word searches. My mom did some of those. She liked the word searches up to a certain point. So you can put word search books, really large. They make ones with really large print. And some of the sensory experiences and art projects you can put in there too. That's another idea if you're willing to just replace the consumable part of that, which we chose not to do in ours. We created 2 extra kits. That were kind of different. The first one on the left, the twiddle kit, this item is called a twiddle. We got ours from Amazon, and it's a sensory therapy tool that's used to reduce stress and increase brain function in elderly patients living with Alzheimer's. It can be, at a certain point, they get busy hands. You'll see that they'll have a repetitive something that they touch, a blanket or the arm of the chair, because it's soothing to them, it's calming to them. And so the twiddle can help with that. It also has some sensory items in it, like there's the little part that crinkles, or the ribbons are smooth and satiny. There's the beads that they can hold. But this one is a muff, so that you stick your hands inside, like you're going to keep your hands warm, and that gives comfort as well. The interesting thing is this type of item can be handmade. So maybe you have people at your library that like to sew or quilt. You can make busy quilts or busy boards. So you don't have to buy them, you could make them. And so we had a kit that just had the twiddle in it. And we also created a kids kit that is meant to help kids understand maybe why grandma or grandpa don't remember them anymore, or they're acting different. Why is that? So we have a kit that we put 2 picture books. We chose Grandma and Me by Beatrice Tober and What a Beautiful Morning by Arthur Levine. There are a lot of books out there. These Carol at the Ramsey County Library gave me a whole list. And these were just the 2 that we picked. There is also a set of DVDs called the Alzheimer's Project, which we found at Amazon. And one of the discs in that set is specifically geared to explaining Alzheimer's to children. And then we bought a game that was created for people with dementia, put that in there so that the child could play the game with their grandparent or aunt or uncle, whoever the person might be. So we have that kit as well. Other items that we put into the kit, we have the Caregiver's Guide to Dementia, which was a book that Carol recommended, and we put one in every kit. We've gotten a good response from that book. People who've checked out the kits have said it's been very helpful. The Making the Most of Memories directions sheet for creating the memory book. And I will have my email and contact information at the end of the presentation, and you can email me. I can send that to you. The Staying Active with Dementia 10 Tips for Caregivers, we put that in the kits as well. I don't want to give you a copy of that because I got that from MindStart and I requested permission to print that and put that in the 10 kits, and they did give us permission. So you can find it on their website and read it. And if you're interested in that, you can ask them for permission to print that and put it in your kits. So just briefly, marketing, that's probably been the biggest challenge of the project. Marketing is always hard to try and reach the group that really needs it. So as you can see from the picture, we created a display of the kits and had a little poster that explained what they were and put our brochures out there. We sent brochures to the nursing homes, hospital waiting rooms, home health agencies, doctor offices. We did personally visit each of the 3 nursing homes activity directors and showed them the kits and explained what they were. And we let them check one out to use with the people at their facility or to give to people coming to visit who maybe wanted something to do with the person they were visiting. We have a county coalition in Page County, just different offices and groups within the county that get together and share information. So we shared this with them and gave them brochures and things. And then there's just the usual media posts, radio spots. They did a newspaper article and put it in the newspaper. And then funding, we spent approximately $1,000 and created our 11 kits. We had the money in our budget. So we just took that from our budget, our program budget. But you can get grants if you have library or city foundations that you can get grants from. Your friends groups may help support. If you have local dementia groups, nursing homes, home health agencies, or even doctors might partner with you in paying to put these kits together. So those are some ideas of how you could fund the project. Related programming, we partnered with the Council Loves chapter of the National Alzheimer's Association to present their effective communication strategies program. And we also did a Hospice 101 program with Care Initiatives. Care Initiatives also does Alzheimer's programming. So if you look them up and find your local representative, you can talk to them about that. As I mentioned before, we do homebound and nursing home delivery. And then something we're planning to do here shortly, we have a bite-sized book club, which is kind of a community leaders book club. They read things to discuss and maybe get ideas for things to do within our community. They're going to be reading and discussing Successful Aging by Daniel Levitin to kind of just talk about the aging population in our community and how we can better serve them. The Patron Response has been very good. They don't just fly off the shelves, I'll say that, but they do get checked out, and we have had several very heart-tugging stories. One woman has checked out every single kit we have. She talks about how she really, really struggled with how her mother was failing and being able to connect with her, and the kits just really, really helped her kind of rediscover that connection with her mother. And she was willing to take brochures to her doctor and read them with her doctor in the doctor's office. And so that was really wonderful. And then we had another patron who doesn't go out much because she's taking care of her aging parent. and had taken them to the doctor that day and had just stopped into the library to make a photocopy. And she saw the display and she asked me what they were, and I explained it to her, and she's like, oh my goodness. She goes, I need those. And I thought she was going to cry. They have really filled a niche in our community. And here's the resource side, if you want to look at that. And like I said, you can email me and I can send you a copy of the slides, a copy of the Create a Memory book. So the Alzheimer's Association, they just have a lot of information, the website for the music. We've got our bags from Demco. And then those last three I talked about quite a bit. But I know that we're almost out of time, and if there's any questions, I want to make sure I have those, but I'll put the last slide up, which has my contact information on there.
Well, thank you so much, Karen. This was just such great information. We did have a question scroll past that asked, how long do your kits check out? What's the circulation period on those?
We check them out for a week. But we do allow them to be renewed twice, so they can just call it in and renew those. So, yeah.
Great. As for slides, I'm not sure, Karen, if you contributed the slides to the ILOC.
I'm not sure I did. I sent them to Samantha.
Okay.
So I don't know.
So they're probably on our ILOC page.
Yep, you can access the slides
Yay.
on the ILOC website, and they'll also be available with the recording.
Great.
Well, Karen, just quickly, I wanted to say that it tickled me when you mentioned the music angle, because I reminded before my husband retired, he was a marketing director for Easter Seals, and he worked with a lot of adult daycares in care facilities around Sioux City. And he would do music programs for them in person. He'd take his guitar and he would start sing-alongs. And he always commented about how everybody in adult daycare could join in the sing-alongs. They knew the right. tunes, they knew the lyrics, and whether it was early stage Alzheimer's or more of a mid-stage or later stage, everybody could join in those music programs. Yeah. And it was really kind of impressive to him, and just kind of proved that music is universal. So
yes, definitely.
So when you mention the music connection, I just wanted to mention that. I think that's very, very true.
Yeah, there's been a lot of research done about the music. It's amazing.
Yeah. There's a lot that's been written about music therapy.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you have inspired those that were listening in to say yes to memory kits or some kind of programming for this population group and their communities. So thank you so much, Karen, for prepping the material and for presenting it for us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.